Welcome to my channel. My name is Free My channel, we're going to have an amazing show today. We're going to cover AI, we're going to cover some future tech, and we are going to cover some climate change full boomer like we always do here. Alright, y'all ready? Let's do this. Is that too much? Feels like it was too much. I found the song on Voicemod, so I thought it fit perfectly for that sort of an intro. Hopefully you heard it. I don't know. We'll see. So, welcome everyone. It's Saturday. We made it another week. Nothing crazy is happening with me over this last week. We had one thing. A good friend of mine at work is going to be moving on to another position, and has made me sad. Be sad to lose her, not just for because I won't be in meetings with her throughout the week, but also. Yeah, that's the big thing. I don't get to spend, and also for the institution, we're missing her skills and expertise, stuff like that too. That was sad, but she is moving on to a much better position, much better for her. Super happy about that. So it's kind of a mixed blessing sort of thing going on. The other thing is I will be on Friday. I'll be going to my second appointment for ADHD diagnosis. This will be my mother and I will be going to talk to the therapist, and yeah, so that's happening. I'll be glad once that's over so we can get into some medication for it. I met some friends of mine at another friend of ours' 50th birthday party, and that's what they talked about, because two of them were ADHD and medication for them was life-changing. I'm kind of looking forward to getting to that point. I think that's all that's really happening with me. I'm still playing Marvel Midnight Suns. I'm at the point like right before where you do the last mission of the game. So I'm still going through trying to finish some things up, unlocking some more achievements before I finish the game. I've got Deadpool and Venom and Morbius. I have them, I think, almost. I'm just working on getting Morbius to level 5 friendship. Then I'll have them all basically unlocked and level 5 friendship, and then the special Midnight Sun skin. So yeah, I think that's it. Just those 3 things over this last week. So how about you guys? Anything happening with you over this last week that you'd like to share before we move on? Like I said, we're going to be covering some AI stuff here to start. Then we'll get into a little bit of kind of future tech, and then we can get into some of the climate change stuff. We'll see how far we get into it today. Typically we'll cover technology in a huge spurt, so we're going to be doing all that stuff today. Anybody? Anything? All right, we'll start with this. Okay, so this is from The Byte. Artificial intelligence is coming to steal your high-paying job, experts warn. This is from January 21st. Now, I talk about this in one of my blog posts, the upcoming AI and automation apocalypse. But let's see what they have to say. That's right, college grads, that degree won't save you from the robots. Don't remind us. For years, breakthroughs in automation have led to increasing instability for blue-collar workers, particularly those in manufacturing, while those in white-collar positions have remained mostly unfazed by these same anxieties. Until generative AI's breakthrough, that is. And in what appears to be the first major technology-driven shakeup to the white-collar marketplace, artificial intelligence could be well poised to replace human workers in higher-paying, college degree-requiring jobs. Before progress was linear and predictable. You figured out the steps and the computer followed them. MIT professor David Autor, an expert on employment and technological change, told The Atlantic's Annie Lowry. It followed the procedure. It didn't learn and it didn't improvise. That, of course, is where cutting edge AI is starting to differ. After all, learning new tricks is the tech's whole thing, thus rendering what were once non-automatable jobs susceptible to mechanization after all. That's right, college grads, not even that wildly expensive degree can save you from the robots now. No one is safe. The expert sentiment isn't terribly surprising, especially in light of the CNET drama that's unfolded this week. To recap, CNET, unbeknownst to its readers, had been stealthily using very dumb generative AI to publish financial explainers. To much dismay from human journalists, SEO spammers, and on the other hand, are thrilled to employ new text generating AIs to pump out spam. And that's just journalism. AI stands to impact a number of historically white-collar markets in fields ranging from computer science to healthcare. If there's any bright spot, Autor does not think that while artificial intelligence will certainly render a lot of human jobs moot, a lot of specialty positions like reporting will still be left to humans. In many ways, AI will help people use expertise better, he told The Atlantic. It means that we'll specialize more. But getting a specialty position in the first place is incredibly difficult. It's difficult in the first place. Okay, need to edit that. Let alone without first holding a job in the entry-level positions that are most likely about to fall machines first. And sure, the job market over time has always adapted to major technological changes, but as we move into a new unknown, you'd be forgiven for feeling uneasy. So yeah, and that's, I hadn't really thought about this, that we'll end up specializing more, but I think that's probably a good and appropriate thought, because we can use AI to do research and allow us to really focus in on what we're interested in. I've played with ChatGPT for a little bit, and it's not really. Of the times I've played with it, there's only like one or two entries that might have been of interest to me, that might have been useful when potentially creating a blog post or something like that. But the rest of it's just kind of, yeah, it says stuff, sure, it's correct, but it's not really overly interesting, because you're saying, hey, tell me about this, and it tells you about this. Now, I guess for me, I'm asking about stuff I already know about to see what, what it can bring. So it was just, yeah, it was interesting. At some point, AI is going to get better, and just the sort of things that he's talking about here is exactly what we are going to have to work on. Coming, it's just a matter of time. The AI artwork right, and AI is going to be singing. We have an AI model, right, and all sorts of things. AI actors is going to be a thing too. So it's going to be, yeah, the AI is going to be coming to take all of our jobs at some point, which is why something such as UBI is going to be required to help deal with the unemployment and things of that nature that AI and automation is going to bring. That's a huge part of it. In my post where I talk about the capitalism and resource-based economies Q&A, I specifically like that first section as it talks about the upcoming AI and automation apocalypse, which I think I do need to update with some current posts and stuff that have been coming out like this. All right, any questions on that topic, this article, before we tear through the next? Oh, I did. Anything? All right, so the next one is also by Futurism. This is David Gutella faked Eminem's vocals using AI for new song. Eminem, bro, there's something that I made as a joke and it works so good, I could not believe it. Let me know if the music is too loud too. French DJ and producer David Guetta recently treated a massive crowd of ravers to a surprise new song featuring rapper Marshall Eminem Mathers. Just one thing, Eminem, the living human, didn't have anything to do with the track. In a video posted to Twitter last week, Gouda excitingly explained that he used unspecified generative AI tools to craft a phony Eminem feature from scratch, lyrics, voice, and all. Let me introduce you to Emin AIM, Gouda captioned the video, which shows a clip of Gouda using the AI generation at a show, pieced together with a follow-up explainer where the DJ of Sexy Bitch fame explains his Emin AIM process. Eminem, bro, there's something that I made as a joke and it works so good I could not believe it. It says, basically, you can write lyrics in the style of any artist you like, so I typed write a verse in the style of Eminem about future rave. And I went to another AI website that can recreate the voice. I put the text in that, and I played the record, and people went nuts. Okay, let's check this out. You guys ready?
This is the future rave sound. I'm getting lost in an underground. This is the future rave sound. I'm getting lost in an underground.
Eminem, bro. There's something that I made as a joke and it works so good, I could not believe it. I discovered those websites that are about AI. Basically, you can write lyrics in the style of any artist you like. So I typed, write a verse in the style of Eminem about future rave. And I went to another AI website that can recreate the voice. I put the text in that and I played the record and people went nuts.
Yes. So there you go for that. The crowd did seem to enjoy the song, judging by the clip, but Gouda seemingly didn't specify to the audience that they were listening to something that was AI generated, and jury's still out on how Eminem feels about his voice being used at a major concert, seemingly without his approval. To his credit, Gouda did follow up his video with a note to say that he obviously won't release the song commercially, but these are ethically murky waters nonetheless. Gouda benefits one way or another from using Eminem's voice at shows, even if he doesn't actually bottle and sell the song. Commerciality aside, the threat of impersonation, particularly of celebrities, is growing and clearly inevitable. Concern regarding voice generating AI programs like whichever one Gouda apparently used. Guetta? Probably Guetta is probably better. Guetta, yeah. It's one thing for a DJ to remix a lyric that someone wrote and rapped or sang themselves, and wholly another to fabricate a feature entirely. The AI could say something offensive in the voice of an impersonated artist, and the impersonated artist might not like it. Heck, the impersonated artist might just not want to be impersonated at all. Indeed, different performers will have different thoughts and feelings, and it's more editing. And it's thought Eminem has openly embraced several newer and controversial technologies, particularly Web3 products and the metaverse, but this is uncharted territory regardless. And to that end, Guetta's world famous. It's likely that the many amateur DJs that plague this sordid earth will take Guetta's use of this tech as a green light to use generative AI for similar stunts. Anyway, as for how good the lyric actually was, in our humble opinion, it was fine. Emin AIM really only rapped 2 lines and they were quite simple. This is the future of rave sound, rapped Emin AIM. I'm getting awesome and underground. Hell yeah! Get awesome, guy. So there is that. And I watched it was a video by The Charismatic Voice. I just found her other channel talking about AI and music, which was pretty interesting. I don't have it here, but I can share it later if you guys are interested in that. Any thoughts on this? I have been playing with creating music a little bit. I've got one little track out. It's on my blog. It's called something Return from the Ocean or something like that. I messed around with what was it? FL Studio? Yeah, and some stuff there. Okay, next one. This is from Freethink from March 18th, so about a week ago. New voice cloning AI lets you speak multiple languages, and it only needs to hear 4 seconds of your voice to do it. Now this is really, really scary. Think about the implications. If it only takes that much for someone to clone your voice, it's going to be pretty, pretty easy to commit fraud. Get a voice. You train the AI to speak in somebody's voice, and then you make a call using it. So just be on the aware of anything that sounds super fishy. It might be scammers using AI for your loved ones or something strange like that. All right. In January, Microsoft unveiled an AI that can clone speakers' voice after hearing them talk for just 3 seconds. While this system, VAL-E, was far from the voice cloning AI, its accuracy and need for such a small audio clip sample set a new bar for the tech. Microsoft has now raised the bar again with an update called VAL-EX, which can clone a voice from a short sample, 4 to 10 seconds, and then use it to synthesize speech in a different language, all while preserving the original speaker's voice, emotion, and tone. We could soon be living in a world where anyone can generate audio that sounds like anyone saying anything in any language, which is super cool for creativity, but also dangerous like any powerful tech like this, right? Microsoft hasn't released VAL-EX to the public yet, but it has published a demo page featuring translations between English and Chinese, along with a preprint paper in which it reveals plans to expand the AI to include other languages. Microsoft decides to make the tool available, or if similar tools are rolled out by myriad other AI firms out there, we could soon be living in a world where anyone can generate audio that sounds like anyone saying anything in any language, and that could have massive consequences. Right, yeah, but it could also be very useful, like if you're having a meeting someone in a language that you don't understand, and you have a technology like this and you speak into it, then it speaks what you have to say in using your voice in the other language. That can be very, very powerful, especially if it can be done with barely a second delay. Right, you can have fairly decent conversations between two people with two very different languages. Dozens of voice cloning AIs are already available online, like VAL-E. They're training on large data sets of speech. Given a sample of a new voice, they can then use their training to predict what it would sound like reading a text prompt and generate the audio. Some can even do what VAL-EX does and produce audio in languages other than the one originally spoken. These services often require longer samples than Microsoft's AI. A person might need to recite a few dozen sentences or even provide hours of audio. And the quality of the output can vary, but having a voice clone can be hugely useful, especially for content creators. An author, for example, might use their voice clone to generate an audiobook, saving them from having to spend days in the recording studio or hire a professional. Even feed it written translations of their book to generate author-read audiobooks in multiple languages. So yeah, this is kind of a feature I wanted for my blog. But these features typically cost money just to have an auto AI read your blog post to them. So I could at some point attempt something like this and have it speak in my voice. Not that that would be necessarily a good thing, but it's definite possibility here. Let's see what this video has to say. Let me know if that's kind of loud. Seems kind of loud to me.
Speak Unique creates personalized synthetic voices for use in communication aids. This is for people who lose the ability to speak as a result of a medical condition, such as motor neuron disease, a stroke, or cerebral palsy. Having access to the Business Support Fund throughout my enterprise fellowship has allowed us to access software and technology to convert some of our face-to-face interactions to an online model. For example, we've been able to hold webinars to raise awareness for our product offering for healthcare professionals across the UK. The most useful part of the programme for me has been access to the training and mentorship through the Entrepreneurs Business School. It's been fantastic to be supported by the team as I navigate through the spin-out process. And it's also been great to be able to share my experience with other fellows who are going through a similar process. Having someone to bounce ideas off and share experiences has been invaluable. The technology at the heart of our business is creating personalised synthetic voices. We've realised this is hugely valuable for people who are at risk of losing their voice due to a medical condition. Using our state-of-the-art technology, we can capture an individual's voice in only around 30 minutes and use this to create a synthetic voice. Furthermore, if at the time of recording they've experienced symptoms of the disease in their speech, such as slowness or slurring, we're able to repair this damage in their synthetic voice and allow them to communicate in a healthy sounding voice. Your voice is such an important part of your identity, so to be able to retain that in the face of a devastating disease is hugely important to the individuals and their families. Having launched our first set of products in June 2020, allowing any English speaker anywhere in the world to create a personalised synthetic voice, our next challenge is to add other languages into this so that we can offer our synthetic voices worldwide. Throughout the Enterprise Fellowship, there's always been such a focus that a small Scottish company can do something big, and so having the support of the Fellowship has made us realise that we will be able to expand globally.
All right, there you go. Speech, again, aside from helping writers, filmmakers, podcasters, and other creators reach new audiences and new revenue streams, voice clones can also help people who have lost their voices to disease or injury still sound like themselves. Actually, when it comes to movies, you can teach them the words even though they don't pronounce it right, just as long as their mouth is moving somewhere close, and then dub the track with something like this, so that it sounds like it's being spoken by the person, but also spoken correctly as well. Okay, aside from helping writers, filmmakers, podcasters, and other creators reach new audiences and new revenue streams, voice clones can also help people who've lost their own voices to disease or injury still sound like themselves. University of Edinburgh spin out Speak Unique, for example, creates voice clones for people with ALS and other forms of motor neuron disease. Samples from before the disease started to affect the person's speech aren't available. Speak Unique can even repair minor impairments in training recordings. While Speak Unique requires users to recite 150 and 300 sentences to create a voice clone, advances like Vol-E could eventually allow them to do so with just a sentence, which could make the tech more accessible to people for whom speaking doesn't come easy. Once they have their voice clone, they can pair it with text-to-speech apps or eye-tracking software to communicate in their own voice. As mind-reading technology gets better, users might eventually be able to use their clones after they've lost the ability to move even their eyes. Oh, okay, we'll read this. Okay, we'll watch this. By Max.
My father was diagnosed with motor neuron disease in 2013. By Christmas, he couldn't walk, and by Easter, he couldn't talk. It's like being in solitary confinement. You're trapped in your body.
Almost everybody living with MND will lose their voice. The difficulty is we don't know exactly when. Voice banking is a way to create a synthetic approximation of someone's natural voice. You can load it into a communication device to type anything at all.
When you find out you've got motor neuron disease, the last thing you probably want to do is think about banking your voice.
The average time it took was 3 months. You had to record a minimum of 1,600 phrases.
Something like the cow jumped over the moon and red lorry, yellow lorry and this sort of stuff. It was meaningless. Nobody's thought about it enough.
In 2019, I picked up the telephone from Stuart Moss, and we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could bring some of these technology giants that he works with to transform the process of voice banking?
The best innovation usually comes from teamwork. So we came up with a think tank.
We jumped at the chance of being involved in something like this. How could we use technology to help people in a life-changing way?
We really need to think about the whole human experience. How do you actually make it accessible?
Voice banking is changing. The question is, how can we find a way for people to bank their own voice without having to be worried about the technology?
What we wanted to do overall was try and make it much quicker. And then what Dell and Intel did was next level.
We came up with the idea to create a book that enables individuals with MND to bank their voice and share their story. Imagine what happens when you take cutting-edge voice banking technology and bring together a New York Times best-selling author and an award-winning illustrator.
How do we show this one thing's happening on the outside and something else is happening on the inside?
People that don't have the words to explain what they're going through can tell their families that everything's changing, but I will always be me.
The way the book's been written means that all the different sounds that we need to cover and all the different combinations of sounds are all in there. Everything we would need to synthesize a voice is contained within the text of the story.
Everything is changing. I've been seeing a lot of doctors and having a lot of
This book allows people to say what they really want to say to their loved ones, but have struggled to say it.
I'm not moving quite the same way I used to.
You almost don't know you're banking your voice. Nothing like this exists out there at the moment.
Everything is changing, but I'll always be me, and I'll always love you.
What is brilliant about this project is that you're asking people to do something that's very natural to them. And in the process of doing that, you capture enough of someone's voice to be able to replicate it.
The process of reading the book brings out lots of different emotions in people. Having sensitive parts and humor and some questions means that you get more of your natural self coming through in the synthetic voice.
I just banked my voice. By reading the book, I will always be me.
This project recognises that voice banking is about identity.
Every group brings some level of innovation to the table. We're able to really make much more advancement in a much shorter period of time.
Who'd have thought we'd be here saying that voice banking was going to be an experience? Now you do it with your nearest and dearest.
And what do we do technology for? Well, this is what it's for.
It was beyond my wildest dreams that we would get to something like this. If we can harness what we've started, the world can be different.
All right, so that's that video. All right, actor Val Kilmer famously took advantage of voice cloning. After a battle with throat cancer left him unable to speak clearly. AI company Sonantic used 30 minutes of audio from his past films to create a voice clone for him. Kilmer can now use it to dub his acting performances, which he recently did in Top Gun Maverick. Val and his team knew that building a custom voice model would help him explore new ways to communicate, connect, and create in the future. John Flynn, Sonantic's co-founder and CTO, wrote in a 2021 blog post. All right, so here's a video. Okay, we'll go ahead and watch this one. The following was created by Val Kilmer from old recordings of his voice. All speech is computer generated.
We all have the capacity to be creative. We're all driven to share our deepest dreams and ideas with the world. When we think of the most talented creative people, they speak to us in a unique way. A phrase we often hear is having a creative voice. But I was struck by throat cancer. After getting treated, my voice as I knew it was taken away from me. People around me struggle to understand me when I'm talking. But despite all that, I still feel I'm the exact same person. Still the same creative soul. The soul that dreams ideas and stories constantly. But now I can express myself again. I can bring these dreams to you and show you this part of myself once more. A part that was never truly gone, just hiding away.
All right. Deepfake audio. While voice cloning is giving Kilmer more work opportunities, it can have the opposite effect on other performers. Motherboard recently reported how studios are pressuring actors with less cachet than Kilmer into agreeing to have their voices cloned. In theory, they could get paid for one session in the recording studio and then see their clone replace them for future work. Tom Friedlander, president and founder of the National Association of Voice Actors, told Motherboard that some even use confusing language in contracts so that they can get away with cloning actors' voices without them knowing. Many voice actors have signed a contract without realizing language like this had been added, he said. Other actors are told they can either agree to the clause or get passed over for work, according to Friedlander, but some performers are never given the opportunity to decide whether they're okay having their voices cloned or for what purposes. Let's see, AI voice version demo from 11 Labs. All right, we'll watch this one.
I stand before you not as an expert, but as a concerned citizen.
One of the 400,000 people who marched in the streets of New York on Sunday.
And the billions of others around the world who want to solve our climate crisis.
As an actor, I pretend for a living. I play fictitious characters, often solving fictitious problems.
I believe that mankind has looked at climate change in that same way, as if it were fiction.
As if pretending that climate change wasn't real would somehow make it go away. But I think we all know better than that now.
Wow, crazy. January, internet users took advantage of startup 11 Labs' free voice cloning app, which needs just 1 minute of audio to create a clone to generate clips of Emma Watson, Joe Rogan, and other celebrities saying hateful things they never really said. Pair a voice clone with deepfake visuals, and you have the content that looks and sounds real but is anything but. Making it easier for bad actors not only tarnishes celebs' reputation, but also create convincing propaganda and spread misinformation. 11 Labs now requires users to pay for the service. But before it added that safeguard, a Motherboard journalist demonstrated how he was able to create a free voice clone of himself with just 5 minutes of audio and then use it to get past his bank's voice recognition system. Of course. I never considered that aspect. If systems like Vol-E and Vol-EX become widely available, something as short as your voicemail message might be enough for criminals to breach your bank accounts, hack your tech, or scam your loved ones. Okay, let's see this work.
Welcome to Lloyds Bank. So we can get you to the right place, in your own words, please say the reason for your call.
Check my balance.
Okay. Please say or key in your date of birth. Please say My voice is my password.
My voice is my password.
Thank you. Hear a balance. Using your keypad, please select one of the following two accounts. 1. Your classic account ending.
Yep, that's coming. The bottom line, Microsoft seems keenly aware that people might misuse its voice cloning AIs. The demo pages for both Vol-E and Vol-EX end with ethics statements highlighting the potential for spoofing. The Vol-E preprint also mentions the possibility of creating a system to detect the AI's voice clones to mitigate risks. While that hasn't come to fruition yet, we are already seeing other researchers devise novel ways to distinguish AI-generated voices from human ones. Now, one thing that they could do is add like an audio watermark to everything created with their service, so that would be easy to pick it out. For such systems to be useful, we need to figure out a way to implement them, it's not clear yet how that's going to work. For now, combining voice-based passwords with other less easily spoofed authentication methods can help us avoid getting hacked by voice clones, and we can also encourage our less skeptical loved ones to hang up and call us back if they think we're in trouble, and remind them and ourselves that we shouldn't believe everything we see and hear online. Yeah, and I think I talked about this last time. I don't know if I said this already, but yeah, it's gonna be easy to scam or engage in fraud with something like this. So just to have this conversation with the people you care about and say, hey, this is a technology that's there, this is what it can do. So if you're really not sure, call me back like they're saying, and kind of verify, because yeah, this has potential for extreme harm, but it's also going to be very, very useful as well. All right, questions, comments, suggestions? All right, now we're going to move into some future tech sort of stuff. I think we only have one or two of these. This is pretty neat. Okay, so this is from the Intel drop from March 20th, a few days ago. Scientists have developed a method for eliminating plastic pollution. All right, researchers at Princeton Engineering have discovered a new way to use egg whites beyond the kitchen. By turning the protein in egg whites into an aerogel, a lightweight material, they've created a cheap solution for removing microplastics from oceans. Microplastics are tiny particles that come from the breakdown of larger plastics and can lead to health issues when they find their way into water. The researchers started with a complex mixture of ingredients, including bread and carbon, but eventually found that the proteins in egg whites were the key to the aerogel structure they needed. By freeze-drying the egg white proteins and heating them without oxygen, they were transformed into strands of carbon fibers and graphene sheets. Resulting material can remove salt and microplastics from seawater with a 98% and 99% efficiency rate, respectively, which is awesome. The egg white material is inexpensive, energy efficient, and outperforms activated carbon, one of the cheapest materials used for water purifications. The discovery of this new use for egg whites has potential implications for both environment and economic sustainability. With microplastics posing a significant threat to ocean health, the ability to remove them efficiently and cost effectively could be a game changer for marine ecosystems. Additionally, the inexpensive and energy efficient production of the egg white material could make it an accessible solution for communities and organizations around the world. Furthermore, the versatility of the aerogel material means that it could have numerous other applications beyond water filtration, such as energy storage and thermal insulation. Yeah, aerogel is good for thermal insulation, but I don't know anything about energy storage, though. Curious to learn about that. This could open up even more opportunities for its various industries. And this is something that they could actually mass produce in a laboratory. Just make a whole bunch of egg whites, grow it, and then use it for aerogel. The discovery also highlights the importance of interdisciplinary research and the potential for finding innovative solutions through unexpected collaborations. In this case, the idea for using egg whites came from a lunchtime conversation and ultimately led to a groundbreaking discovery. Overall, the use of egg whites as a material for removing microplastics from oceans is a promising development in the fight against plastic pollution, and it will be exciting to see how this discovery is further developed and implemented in the future. Yeah, there you go. It's pretty short and sweet. It's neat that that is a thing. Questions, comments, suggestions, everybody. All right, this is from IEEE Spectrum. It's from March 15th, so about a little over a week ago, 10 days ago. Artificial leaf draws power from wind and raindrops. A single drop can produce 40 volts of electricity. Pretty crazy. Kind of see it here. This is the artificial leaf thingy. And this is when it gets hit, it powers this. You'll see a video below where it just kind of pops on. When it's hit, when it is hit, all right, when it comes to harvesting energy from water or wind, the first thought that comes to mind is likely a massive hydro dam or wind farm, but think smaller. Researchers in Italy have developed an energy harvesting system that can be embedded within plants and creates electricity from raindrops or wind. Under rainy or windy conditions, the device can create enough electricity to light up LED lights and power itself. The new device is described in a study published 28 February in IEEE Robotics and Automation Letters. Vivian Metter is a researcher studying bio-inspired soft robotics at the Italian Institute of Technology, IIT, in Genoa, Italy. He notes that a system relying on leaves to produce energy could be especially useful for agricultural applications and remote environmental monitoring, where self-powered sensors are needed to observe plant health or monitor climate conditions. The device created by Metter and his colleagues involves an artificial leaf that has a silicone elastomer layer along the bottom and is added to the leaves of a real plant. When the leaves move in wind, two surfaces touch each other and separate again, creating static charges on plant leaf cuticle and on our device. Oh, okay, explains Metter. These charges are induced into the inner cellular tissue of the plant where they create a current. We can harvest this current by an electrode inserted into plant tissue. That's interesting. Several existing energy harvesters embedded within plants use a similar technique to create electricity from wind, but this research group took their work one step further, enabling their device to also harvest energy from raindrops. whereas the silicon elastomer layer sits along the bottom of the artificial leaf to generate and harvest static charges from the rustling of the leaves. The artificial leaf has a different fluorinated ethylene propylene layer on its top side. When raindrops fall on this layer, they charge the surface and connect the electrodes embedded within and on top of the artificial leaf, creating a capacitor. As the raindrops shrink and spread over the leaf's surface, the capacitive coupling between the electrodes changes current. Okay. Go and watch this. Oh, you go away. Device for simultaneous wind and raindrop energy harvesting operations on the surface of the leaf. Yeah, here you see the leaf moving in the wind, and you see the LED lights popping on. So if they pair this with some sort of organic battery technology, storing a little bit of energy at a time, this could be super, super useful. In their study, the researchers embedded their artificial leaf system within the leaves of a living oleander plant and assessing its ability to harvest energy with varying amounts of rainfall and wind. They found that single water drops create voltage and current peaks of over 40 volts and 50 microamp, and can directly power 11 LED lights. Quite a bit. The results revealed that wind and rain energy harvesting are possible with the device, either separately or simultaneously, making it a multifunctional energy harvester or self-powered sensor, says Barbara Mazzolai, Associate Director for Robotics and Director of the IIT Bio-Inspired Soft Robotics Laboratory, also involved in the study. She notes that existing energy harvesting systems like this that rely on wind energy alone tend to produce less electricity when their surfaces become wet. The researchers report, however, that their new device can actually create more electricity in wet conditions via its top FEP layer for harvesting energy from raindrops. Based on the results of the study, the researchers believe the performance of their artificial leaf can likely be further improved through design modifications, such as shapes of the electrodes and the materials. We have filed a patent application on the technology and are analyzing the potential markets, says Mazzolai. Still, some research is necessary before defining the final product. For example, we want to test the systems in detail under outdoor and strongly varying wind conditions. All right, there you go. Neat new tech coming out, and people are researching. Any questions, comments, suggestions, anything? Did I? Oh, here. All right. Here's the next one. Didn't have enough to worry about. Got a little bit more extra to worry about. Oh. Scientists, this is from The Bite. This is from February 15th, so days ago. Scientists turn dead birds into ghoulish drones that can actually fly. bird drones are real. Remember that ironic birds aren't real conspiracy theory, which jokingly claimed that feathery aves are government drones? Well, they may have had a point. Sort of. Behold, actual functioning prototypes for drones that use parts of dead birds like pigeons to look and fly like a real sky rat. The researchers who designed the bird-like drones envisioned that they could one day be used to get a seamless and natural look at wildlife, or be used by a military to spy on people unnoticed, according to their paper presented at the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics SciTech Forum. Instead of using artificial ingredients for building drones, we can use the dead birds and re-engineer them as a drone. Lead author Shafa Sanalian and an assistant professor of mechanical engineering at New Mexico Tech told scientists. Okay, so here you can kind of see it. I got feathers, got the mechanical parts, putting it all together. All right, let's give this a try. It doesn't look like it's flying naturally. Just the wing is very rigid. To be one giveaway for it, but it's a start. So far, the bird drones are capable of gliding without flapping their wings and hovering like a hummingbird. That's thanks to the use of taxidermied bird parts from pigeons, pheasants, hummingbirds, and crows, including a real head, feathers, and most importantly, the wings that allow the researchers to more accurately emulate the motions of a fluttering bird, although they note that creating a drone this way is difficult. On the upside, though, it beats pain in the ass that is designing a traditional mechanical wing that's supposed to flap like an ornithopter. This removes the need to design and manufacture a wing, which is notably difficult as wings are challenging to model and correctly size. Aerial robotics expert Raphael Zufri at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, who is not involved in research, told New Scientist. Flying high. It'll take some more tinkering, though, before these bogus birds really get off the ground. For one, they aren't as nimble or as efficient as real birds, and the researchers note that the wings still need better articulation to be more flexible overall. And if they're going to be used to spy on us, they might need to be a little quieter too. Sometimes you don't want people to find out that this is a drone, Hassanelian said. Some additional soundproofing could go a long way, but the paper also suggests switching spur gears for helical gears to help reduce noise. None of those measures, though, could ever drown out the wailing of the poor tortured bird souls whose bodies have been so grimly purposed. Yeah, so there you go. Birds aren't real. Coming to a military and a police near you. Good stuff. Nothing to be at all paranoid about. Copy. All right, this is the only article that we have here that doesn't fit in what we were planning on covering today. Comments as we move forward. Age of Reason. Hold on. Oh, you showed up over here. Okay, you're on. Hold on. You didn't come through here. What do you think about sophisticated AI bots on social media? Yeah, you didn't show up in my chat over here. If you're still here, it depends on what you mean by using AI in social media. Looking at, are you talking about creating content to post to social media, or AI to manage like posts or something like that? I mean, the sophistication of AI currently isn't powerful enough to really not cause harm. Like the moderation bots on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. If someone reports something, it's instantly taken away. and it most likely goes through if someone challenges it, it probably goes through a bot first. Not sure, but it's just like anything, AI, if it's used properly, can be very useful, but it'll end up being used as a stopgap, and they won't really look at improving the things that they need to improve, so that AI isn't a stopgap, but it can actually be as an actual tool, so that real human job. It's going to be quite a long time before AI can actually do the things that need to be done without interaction as well. Because it has to understand nuance, it has to understand context, right? Because just someone reporting a post, just looking at it, sure, it might violate policies out of context, but within the context, it might just be fine, right? So it's about we need much more sophisticated AI for it to be really useful in that way. So yeah, if you're still here, I didn't see your chat because I don't know, my chat sharing thing between the different platforms isn't quite working. So I'll try and watch the chat there on the side, like right up. I'll watch the chat over here to make sure I catch people who are popping in from something other than Twitch. Hopefully that answers your question. Apologize for missing it. Okay, so this one is from Interesting Engineering, from May 7th of last year, so this is just under a year old. It's official, remote work has zero negative impact on your productivity. We need to learn this about people, we need to teach people about it. Yeah, there's businesses that are like Twitter under Musk, which is requiring everyone to come back into the office because, totalitarian regimes have to have you there to keep under their thumb screws, right? There is good news for those who enjoy working from home. A research team from the Texas A&M University School of Public Health has conducted a new study that found that employee and company resiliency may be enhanced through remote work, according to a statement published by the Institute Friday. Evaluating employee productivity during Hurricane Harvey. This is particularly true during natural disasters and other events that lead to work replacement. In particular, the study evaluated employee technology data before, during, and after Hurricane Harvey. What the researchers found was the total computer use declined during the hurricane, but returned swiftly to pre-hurricane levels 7 months after the event. In the future, there will be a greater percentage of workforce who is involved in some sort of office-style technology work activities, said Marks Brendan, who is director of the school's ergonomics center. Almost all of the study's employees are right back up to the same level of output as they were doing before Hurricane Harvey. This is a huge message right now for employers because we're having national debates about whether or not employees should be able to work or in a hybrid schedule. Yeah, and this should be kind of pretty much the standard. In many ways, having people have to go into work and have to have offices, you're basically doubling the amount of space that an individual takes up on the planet by having a workspace and having a home space, or having a work office and a home office. So they got double the amount of space taking up for that same activity, right? The office space. Now, it's not to say that there isn't value in going to the office and being around people and stuff like that. There definitely is. It's definitely, I do prefer working, well, why? Well, I prefer working at home so I don't have to leave the house. I can work in my pajamas. I'm working from home right now and it's awesome. But I do, as a part of that, I do miss some of the socialization. But actually I get a decent amount of socialization. Well, anyhow, this should be the standard. Remote and hybrid should be standard. And having both options, depending on the work. I mean, obviously, if you're going to be a surgeon, a nurse, it's going to be very hard to do that. But for anything that can be office work, the option should be there. Exploring workplace injuries. The study went beyond assessing productivity to examining the causes of workplace injuries. They found it was important for employees to take regular breaks to avoid being hurt on the job. Oh my God, go. The research says that if you work a certain way at a certain pace over a certain duration, you're more likely to become injured from that work. But if you work a little less or a little less often or break up the duration or have certain other character traits like posture, then you're less likely to develop a problem from your office work. Bendin went so far as to suggest that employers nudge employees to take regular breaks and recharge before finishing work. This, he argued, would make for a healthier and more resourceful workforce. People who took recommended breaks were more productive overall. They got more done, he said. We need to learn this about people. We need to teach people about it. And then we need to help people actually do it. Yep, good stuff. Good stuff there. All right, now we're going to move on to climate change stuff. All the yummy, humorous sort of stuff that we love covering here. A new, I think the last IPCC, the last part of the IPCC report came out recently. I have not had a chance to look at it. I have not looked at the previous one either. But we'll go ahead and cover a post on it so we can get... Get an idea what they're going to say, which is probably going to be the same stuff that I've been talking about on my stream for a while now. All right, so IPCC, that's the International Panel on Climate Change, report says only swift and drastic action can avert irrevocable damage to the world, which is exactly what I've been saying, right? And my policies are all about that, right? I say we need to treat this as literally a human extinction level event. And if we don't approach it that way, we're not going to do anything even borderline close to what needs to be done to save humanity and all life on this planet from extinction. From the things that I've seen, we're looking at 200 to 300 years will be mass global extinction on this planet. There'll be almost no life left on this planet. There was a report that came out that said basically in 400 years, the oceans are going to boil, and that's 400 years, so we got between now and 400 years, and we're looking at, 200 to 300 years is when, the mass extinctions are going to happen, and it's going to be super, mega, ultra bad. All right, scientists have delivered a final warning on the climate crisis. And if you want to see what a policy might look like that approaches tackling climate change as a human extinction level event, you can check out my policies. It's probably my largest policy. All right, scientists have delivered a final warning on the climate crisis as rising greenhouse gas emissions push the world to the brink of irrevocable damage that only swift and drastic action can avert. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, made up of the world's leading climate scientists, set out the final part of its mammoth 6 assessment report on Monday. Let's throw that in here for you. The comprehensive review of human knowledge of the climate crisis took hundreds of scientists 8 years to compile and run thousands of pages, but boiled down to one message: act now or it will be too late. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said this report is a clarion call to massively fast-track climate efforts by every country in every sector on every time frame. Our world needs climate action on all fronts, everything, everywhere, all at once, like the movie. In sober language, the IPCC set out the devastation that has already been inflicted on swaths of the world. Extreme weather caused by climate breakdown has led to increased deaths from intensifying heat waves in all regions, millions of lives and homes destroyed in droughts, floods, millions of people facing hunger, and increasingly irreversible loss in vital ecosystems. Monday's final installment, called the Synthesis Report, is almost certain to be the last such assessment, while the world still has a chance of limiting global temperature rises to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, threshold beyond which our damage to the climate will rapidly become irreversible. Oh my God. I think this is Antonio Guterres here. We'll watch this. This is about a minute.
Humanity is on thin ice, and that ice is melting fast.
What does the Synthesis Report tell us? Well, it tells us, and we know that climate change is here now. It tells us that climate change is a real threat to human and planetary well-being. It tells us, of course, that these human and planetary well-being are one and the same. It tells us that we are very, very close to 1.5 degrees limit, and that even this limit is not safe for people and for planet.
This report is a clarion call to massively fast-track climate efforts by every country and every sector and on every time frame. In short, our world needs climate action on all fronts, everything, everywhere, all at once.
All right. Kaisa Kosonen, a climate expert at Greenpeace International, said this report is definitely a final warning on 1.5 degrees Celsius. Governments just stay on their current policies. The remaining carbon budget will be used up before the next IPCC report due in 2030. More than 3 billion people already live in areas that are highly vulnerable to climate breakdown. The IPCC found in half the global population now experiences severe water scarcity for at least part of the year. In many areas, the report are already reaching the limit which we can adapt. Such severe changes in weather extremes are increasingly driving displacement of people in Africa, Asia, North, Central, and South America, and the South Pacific. Right, and this is something that I was talking about, that I've talked about in this channel, that like what's going to happen, and this is going to be horrific. As like they're talking about here, the displacement of people from Africa, Middle East, Central South America. They're going to become climate refugees, and they're going to start coming to the north. And as that refugee migration happens, the countries that they're attempting to go through are going to start putting up their military and putting up their police to try and stop them. And especially the more fascist regimes, which is pretty much, well, most of the countries in Central and South America, a lot of them at least, because they've been couped by the United States. So as these refugees are going north, these countries are going to start basically killing the refugees that are moving from the global south to the global north. And there's going to be mass riots over, first it's going to start with mass riots and foods, for food and water and all that sort of stuff. So there's going to be mass deaths that way, and then many are going to flee to the north. Then the police and military of many of the more fascist countries are going to basically just murder or starve out the refugees. And the lucky few that do get through might have a chance, but most are just going to end up dying, because the countries in the global north are not preparing for this, because this is happening. Mass migration of refugees from the global south is going to happen over the next 50 years, and none of these countries are preparing to take in another 500 million people. If you take the entire population of the global south and spread it up over the global north and figure out how you need to spread that population out, I have no idea what that number is. Well, if it's 4 billion people, okay, let's do this. Let's assume that the countries are spread out evenly. Okay, so we'll do 4 billion. Why does this do that? And we'll assume there's 200 countries. There's like 185. We'll just do that for easy math. Oh my god, seriously? I know, my calculator is not working on here. Divided by... Okay, we'll do 195. So each country has to take 20.5 million people. So that's what every country has to be planning on, taking 20.5 million people into their country. Assuming this is evenly spread out, country for country, not based off land area or population or any of that sort of stuff, right? Just as a mental model with which you can start with. And like, how many, have you heard of any country thinking about that or talking about it in that way? No, you definitely aren't. And that requires such a massive level of infrastructure increase and complete changing everything that happens within the country that they're just not going to do it. Especially within the EU, which is super difficult unless the EU itself makes that determination and preparation, because the individual countries can't do it because they don't have their own currency. So the EU itself would have to decide that they were going to prepare for that and basically build brand new cities from the ground up to house people, and new energy and new food supplies and all the other stuff, right? But no country's doing that, as far as I've heard. The United States sure as fuck isn't good, but the United States is the largest terrorist organization in the world, is just cooing countries, creating fascist regimes, and ensuring that the fascists that they put in charge of these various countries end up just murdering or destroying the people and the resources there for fun and corporate profit. So yeah, that's what's going to really require. I need to write that down. 4 billion. Well, actually, it's not by 195. Can't do math properly. Because it's not 195 countries. Let's say you have to divide that by half. Okay, so it's be 41 million. Each country in the global north, assuming there's an even spread, has to take 41 million refugees. Wow. I need to add this to my policies because I haven't talked about it quite like this, right? Yeah, so no one's talking about it like that, but that's the sort of scale that we need to be thinking about things, and no one is. All right, let's see, how big is the synthesis report? Okay, we'll go for this. It doesn't say how many pages it is. Okay, let's check out the summary. Summary is 36 pages, not so bad. I have to read this. Okay, well, it's here. You guys can read through it. I'm not going to read through it here on stream, but it's there. I think I'll take the time to read through this. But we will see. So it's there for you. The synthesis report. I shared that in the... Actually, let me just keep that open. All right. Any questions or comments on that as a topic? Anybody? Anybody hear me? Anybody? Okay. All right. So this is from The Guardian again. This is from 22 March, 3 days ago. New climate paper calls for charging big U.S. oil firms with homicide. And I've talked about this before too, that we need to basically nationalize the oil and shut it down and retrain everyone to go to sustainable energy. And not just oil, but coal as well, and natural gas specifically. Natural gas is part of the oil industry, but as far as those types of energy, fossil fuel energy, and yeah, convert them to sustainable energy, and yeah, just do it. Authors of paper accepted for publication in Harvard Environmental Law Review argue firms are killing members of the public at an accelerating rate. Yeah, and I say that like the CEOs and upper management of these fossil fuel industries basically need to be tried for crimes against humanity and crimes against the natural world at The Hague, right? At the ICC. Because that's essentially what they have done. That's what they have been doing. Now, the workers themselves are just victims in the whole thing, but definitely the CEO and the upper management and all that sort of stuff, and especially the people that knew about it. And especially because many of them, these oil companies, have already done research on this and they know exactly what's going on, and yet they still have been funding money to anti-climate change groups and have not been telling the world about this in any major way. So yeah, fuck them, put them in prison, because the end of humanity is coming and they're the ones who are primarily responsible. But to another level of that, the US government also, I've said this kind of before, that pretty much every single US president throughout history and almost every member of Congress needs to be put in jail or need to be tried for crimes against humanity, and especially with climate change now, that we definitely know about in the last 50 years. They all need to be put in jail for crimes against humanity and crimes against the natural world, because the United States has done jack shit to promote saving humanity from extinction, has done jack shit to really powerfully promote sustainable energy and all of that stuff. So fuck them all, put them in jail. Okay. The striking and seemingly radical legal theory is laid out in a paper accepted for publication in the Harvard Environmental Law Review. In it, the authors argue fossil fuel companies have not simply been lying to the public, they've been killing members of the public at an accelerating rate, and prosecutors should bring that crime to the public's attention. Yeah, and by one, in my policies, I'm going to bring this up. I'll share it again, because I know you're tired of seeing it, but I'm going to share it again. But there's an article that basically says that about 9 million people die a year due to pollution. Yeah, here it is. And then you combine that with the 20 million that die due to things that are solvable. Common diseases, having water, having healthcare, having food. That's basically 30 million people that die every year due to capitalism. It's horrific when you really think about it. What's on their ledger in terms of harm, there's nothing like it in human history, said David R. Cush, the director of the climate program and consumer advocacy group Public Citizen and one of the paper's authors. The paper is rooted in part in the growing body of evidence fossil fuel companies knew of the harm their products caused and misled the public about them. Attorneys general and cities have used that information to sue oil companies for financial damages caused by rising seas, wildfires, and heat. But the new paper argues that oil companies' climate research and continued fight to delay climate regulations amount to a culpable mental state that has inflicted harm on people death. Yep, put the fuckers in jail. Once you start using those terms, you come to realize that's criminal law, said Donald Brahman, a law professor at George Washington University and Arkush's co-author. Culpable mental state causing harm is criminal conduct, and if they kill anybody, that's homicide. Me likey a lot. Brahman argued that pursuing homicide charges would have a greater impact on fossil fuel companies than the cases currently wending their way through court, in part because the penalties would be steeper. Rather than paying a fine, homicide charges could open up an array of other outcomes that could materially alter how companies operate. Yeah, so like they say, unless you start executing businesses, you're not really not going to really do much. Homicide is a catch-all term that includes charges ranging from manslaughter to murder. The former is a lesser charge where death was caused without intent, while murder is reserved for cases where the defendant either had knowledge that taking a specific action could kill someone or engaged in a premeditated killing. Arkush said the fact that fossil fuel companies knew that their products worsened climate crisis and yet continued to extract oil, gas, and coal comes extremely close to meeting the definition of murder, though the paper lays out the case for multiple types of homicide charges. The paper also argues that the case for climate homicide has been bolstered by attribution science, which seeks to ascertain how much climate crisis has worsened individual extreme weather events. I think we covered that previously. Some studies have even been able to attribute a specific number of extreme weather deaths. Yeah, we read this one. The duo argued that this growing body of science is among the most powerful tools to prove that companies' actions have more than met the standard for a prosecutor to bring a homicide case. Whether you could make an actual criminal charge stick is trickier because their complexity is mixed with the complicity of everyone else. Right, and this is the whole issue, right? Like, where do you stop drawing the line? I would do just the upper management and the researchers and the people twixt the researchers reported to, or those at least specifically that said ignore it and fight against it. Bringing homicide charges against oil companies for deaths caused by the climate crisis would be unprecedented, but corporations have been tried for homicide before. Oh, California prosecutors charged the, we read about this too, utility PG&E with manslaughter for its role in the deadly campfire that leveled the town of Paradise in 2018. And federal prosecutors charged BP with manslaughter following the 2010 Deepwater Horizon disaster. In both cases, the companies pleaded guilty and paid billions in fines and penalties, which is a big fucking deal, right? Just money, who cares? While there may be a theoretical case for climate homicide, the realities are daunting. First, a district attorney or attorney general office that has jurisdiction in a place where climate change has caused deaths would have to be willing to bring charges. That office would need significant resources to confront influential billion-dollar corporations, right? That's exactly the issue. Doesn't matter how right you are, if you don't have more money than they do, you're fucked. They can just bury you in appeals, bury you in bullshit paperwork and stuff like that. You don't have a chance. The morality of what fossil fuel companies have been doing over the decades has become clearer and clearer, said Christopher Coots. Not sure. A distinguished professor and director of the Kadish Center for Morality, Law, and Public Affairs at the University of California, Berkeley. They're complicit in the deaths that occur, and the article is very persuasive about that. Whether you could make an actual criminal charge stick is tricky because their complicity is mixed with the complicity of everybody else. Cutts said another challenge facing any would-be prosecutions is the central role fossil fuels have played in shaping the modern world. The central act for which the homicide charges being applied were embraced, subsidized, and a central part of the world economy for the last 150 years. This is a different kind of case where the use of fossil fuels is the baseline of normal behavior. That would make it a very unusual kind of homicide case. He added, likening it to a black hole of liability. Right. And actually, yeah, again, where do you start drawing that line? When did they know, and when when are they culpable? I would start with, the research in 1970, 73 or whatever it was, where they specifically knew. And actually, we covered the video that they created. They actually had someone on their staff creating a video spreading the word about climate change. It might have been from, I'm not sure which one. We've covered that one too. But yeah, I mean, start there, start putting people in jail. And like I said, my policies, all these companies have 1 year to create a 5-year plan to shift to sustainable energy, or everyone and their fucking brother goes to jail. And not everyone, but the upper level management and stuff like that. Gayora Binder, a distinguished professor of law at the University of Buffalo, said the paper was exciting, imaginative, and insightful in a number of important ways, but also advised caution. An obstacle to finding causal responsibility is when death results from diffuse actions of multiple actors, said Binder, who has written extensively on homicide and criminal law. It's a little reminiscent of the issues with tobacco and opioids, where you have multiple manufacturers, you can't trace which one contributed to which death. Not clear that if you remove any one of the fossil fuel companies, that deaths resulting from warming don't occur. Well, it shouldn't be. So in a case like this, it shouldn't be a specific company. It should be the entire fucking industry. All of the industry. The whole industry. It's not just BP or Shell. It's the whole fucking industry. Because once one of them knew, they all knew at some point. Binder hypothesized that multiple companies could be charged collectively, though it would still be a very challenging case to bring about. As an analog, he noted that there have been cases in which multiple street drag racers have been charged with homicide, though only of them was physically responsible for killing someone because they all competed in a race that resulted in a death. Well, that's different because there's actual physical people doing something. And there's direct responsibility of death there, whereas this is completely indirect. It turns out fossil fuel companies were all colluding and suppressing research about climate change and all trying to help each other continue the enterprise, then we may be able to hold them responsible for one another's actions, he said. Right, and we know they did. Whether or not we can prove it, that's a whole other thing, right? We know they did. I mean, we've known about climate change since 1830. We've known about it for at least that long, which is a very long time. So it's not that we didn't know. We do. And there was even a presentation at the 1910 or 20 whatever World's Fair, if I remember correctly, talking about climate change. And then you got the 1970s research by one of the fossil fuels. Then one of the fossil fuels actually was out there with a video, which we covered, talking about climate change. So we know they know. We know they all know. Just start cutting heads off. Asked for a response to the study, a spokesperson for the American Petroleum Institute said in an email, the record of the past 2 decades demonstrates that the industry has achieved its goal of providing affordable, reliable American energy to U.S. consumers while substantially reducing emissions and our environmental footprint. Big fucking deal. Any suggestion to the contrary is false. Yeah, substantially reducing our emissions, that doesn't fucking matter. Reducing emissions is irrelevant because reducing emissions doesn't save humanity from extinction. Reducing emissions doesn't prevent people from dying from pollution. What they should have been doing, let me know if the music is too loud, is shifting to sustainable energy. If they have not been doing that, cut off their heads. Because they should have been divesting from the fossil fuel industry, from fossil fuels, and shifting to sustainable energy. If they're not doing that, they are all culpable for where we're at today. It's really that simple. Because they've known for a very long time. Any suggestion to the contrary is false. It's possible that the broader social shift taking place, including criticism over fossil fuel companies' role in causing the climate crisis, could make climate homicide a feasible option for the right prosecutor. growing wave of lawsuits being brought against them is proof, Brahman said, that those companies are no longer untouchable. Yeah, and what? Steve Donziger won his case, right? In Peru, I think it was. The authors go so far as to recommend a particular sentence should fossil fuel firms be found guilty of homicide, restructuring them as public benefit corporations, similar to what happened to Purdue Pharma as part of its settlement for contributing to the opioid crisis. Doing so, they argue, would allow for rapidly winding down fossil fuel production to reduce further climate harm while ramping up investments in clean energy, protecting workers and communities tied to fossil fuel companies. That's exactly what I've been saying. That's what my policies say. But this sort of stuff should have been done years ago. Like a decade ago at the very least. Give them 1 year to create a 5-year plan to shift to sustainable energy. That is what they should be doing. If the government policy is anything other than that, they're voting for human extinction. So it's good to see I'm pretty much on the right track. They're catching up with me. All right, climate advocates have taken note of the paper's argument. The Center for Biological Diversity is a U.S. nonprofit that focuses on protecting endangered species. It has sued over oil companies' drilling rights, but isn't directly involved with any of the big oil cases. The case is compelling that fossil fuel companies' actions meet the legal definition of homicide. The paper lays that out clearly, says Cassie Siegel, the director of the Center's Climate Law Institute. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Good stuff. Me like a lot. A lot of great information in there. I have to look at some of those links. If you want me to check out some of these links, we've covered some of this before already. But yeah, I want to look at some of those links later on. Oh yeah, and this is the other thing, right? While making record profits. So if these oil companies are making any actual profit, everyone should be in jail. Anything that they make that is profit should be going towards sustainable energy. Period. Full stop. Fucking balls, man. Oh, wrong one. There, I'll check here. Nope, I copy. All right. Any questions, comments, suggestions on that as I move on here? Anything? Anybody? All right, this is Truth Out. BP cuts climate pledges. Fuck off. While reporting record-shattering profits. And this is from February of this year, so this is about a little over a month ago. And the other part of record-shattering profits is that with prices on fuel going up, it's not a needed thing. It's crisis profiteering. If there's any inflation in this area, there shouldn't be any profit at all. No. Company is planning more fossil fuel output than expected after reporting a record $28 billion in profits for 2022. Oh, come on, bastards. BP, a London-based oil giant that has attempted to style itself as a leader of the renewable energy transition, announced Tuesday that it's slashing its emission reduction goals and planning more fossil fuel output than previously expected. After reporting a record $28 billion of profits for 2022, more than double what it made the year before. Holy fuck. So that's pretty much all inflation profiteering. Honestly, tax that shit, take it all, and drop it into climate, to sustainable energy. There you go. Done. Next. Do that with each and every company. Compared to its earlier plan to curtail fossil fuel production by 40% below 2019 levels, The company said it now intends to cut output by just 25% by 2030. BP correspondingly now aims for a fall of 20% to 30% in emissions from the carbon in its goal in its oil and gas production in 2030 compared to a 2019 baseline. Lower than the previous aim of 35 to 40%, the company said in a press release. The oil giant said it plans to pour just as much money, up to $8 billion, into its fossil fuel business and its so-called transition growth engines, which will be renewable by 2030. See, these companies aren't held responsible for anything, and they own, the government. They own their governors. They own the members of the Congress. They own the military. So they can do whatever they want, and no one's going to hold them accountable. BP's announcement came a day after the head of the United Nations said fossil fuel companies that can't establish credible plans to sharply reduce carbon emissions should not be in the business. True. There you go. This is super annoying here, because... Anyhow. Alright. Any questions on that? I ran through this so quickly. All right. Next one. Anything? Questions, comments? All right. So this is the bite. Global warming is worse than we thought, AI tells scientists. Big deal. February 2nd, a month ago, 2 months ago. Well, that's not good. AI assessment. Scientists enlisted the help of an AI to estimate how long it would take until global warming gets really bad. The AI's assessment, we might be screwed. Yeah, and what I've said on this channel before is that as scientists have their models and they're predicting when things, should be happening, they're so off on their predictions. Like, things have been happening like 100 years earlier, 50 years earlier, 10 years earlier. Everything is happening at a much faster much more accelerated rate than we have any capacity to accurately predict. And that should terrify the shit out of everyone. That really means that whatever, scientists predict is going, when things are going to happen is actually significantly sooner than we expect. And I bet that primarily is because of feedback loops and reaching critical, the setback point, not setback. To reach critical points where we may have already passed the point of no return. We don't know that exactly yet, but it's possible. That may be why things are accelerating faster than we can actually predict, because we've already hit positive feedback loops and it's just going to get worse, and there's maybe nothing we can do about it. So the only thing that we might be able to do is basically start building our entire civilization from the ground up to prepare to live in a planet much like Venus. High pressure, high temperature, raining sulfuric acid. Now that's going to be quite a bit farther in the future than in the next few hundred years, but definitely within the next 1,000 or something like that, because once it starts running away, we're fucked. We're fucked. So basically we need to be living underground as much as possible to protect ourselves from the pressure and from the rain and the storms, and also to be able to grow food and not have it destroyed by the environment, right? So that's the level that we need to be thinking. We covered the Neom, right? The Line City, we covered Akon, right? Although Neom is more the scale that we need to be thinking. Because we've covered that, it's a really shitty idea as far as the line, it's basic engineering. but the underlying principle beyond the line is really well done, I think. I mean, conceptually. So as I say on this channel, we need to be building up and we need to be building down. Specifically, down is probably more important in the long run, but if we can make, you know, tall buildings which can survive in a very stormy and acidic, you know, acidic rain environment, then that's definitely what we should be doing. That we can get, because Neom was built for 9 million people? Is that right? 9 million people? I think it's 9 million people. So that's what we need to be looking for. Building cities up and down for, you know, 9, 10, 20 million, and moving people in to deal with climate change. Otherwise, anything other than that, and you're basically voting for people to die. Okay, the resulting study published this week in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences suggested that global temperatures could reach the threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius in just a decade by 2030, right? Exceed that, and scientists warn of increased drought, wide-scale die-offs, and wildlife species and ecosystems, and famines, to name just a few drastic ramifications. Well, those things are happening now, right? I mean, we've covered some of those on this channel. There's a place in Australia where there's a river and it's just dead fish. Millions of dead fish because of the loss of oxygen, I think it was in the river or something like that. Veterans from Iraq are terrorists. True statement. True statement. What do I have you here? Yes. Welcome to my channel. It's something I have to live with, and it fucking sucks. I went into the military, I was just trying to get college, and I had no clue about politics. I didn't give a flying fuck about politics. But as I got into politics, it's been something that's been difficult to deal with, having been a part of Iraq. As far as I'm aware, we were responsible for the initial bombing of Iraq. I was on the USS Enterprise at the time. 95, 96 is when we did our Mediterranean, my run to the Mediterranean, and participated in that. Yeah, I was on a boat. I was sitting in the center of a boat, watching gauges not move. So I was a nuclear reactor operator. So I sat in the middle of the boat, watching gauges. Oh, I didn't do anything. I'm just trying to go to college. Didn't like it, of course, but I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't know anything about, you know, geopolitics or anything like that. I just want to go to college, man. Yeah, I really didn't think about it. I mean, you know, we have this amazing propaganda machine, right? That we're the good guys and they're all the bad guys. They're the terrorists. You know, Saddam, of course, is horrible, right? I didn't really think about it. You just have this, you know, trust in the government that it's going to do the right thing. You know, just doing the right thing. But again, I never followed politics at all. I didn't care. It's dirty. It's corrupt. Same with religion. I didn't follow religion either because fuck both of them. Nothing good comes of either of them. But all I wanted was to go to college. That is it. Doing my job like the rest of us, just so I can go to college. Which is one of the reasons why my educational policies are so big. Yeah, that's a way to say it. I mean, dupe, sure, but it's also a position of privilege. I was actually having a talk with my therapist about this. To not care about politics is a position of extreme privilege, right? As a white middle-class male, I didn't have to care about politics because I was living just fine. My life wasn't made worse by anything. So as I've gotten into politics after I got out of the Navy and stuff like that, I've become quite acutely aware of my my privilege, especially now that I'm, you know, middle class. I just got an amazing job. I'm college educated, right? I have all this extreme level of privilege that many, you know, people of color in this country don't have access to because of the systemic and structural racism visceral to our country, right? I've got a giant post I'm working on that is talking about that exact thing. I don't keep in keep in contact with anyone from the Navy. I can't imagine too many of our people in the Navy have any real big PTSD because we didn't see any direct combat. But it's quite possible because we were involved in the, as far as I remember, the initial bombing of Iraq, that some might have it. I mean, I'm bothered by it. It's one of the reasons why my policies are, I'll share my policies for you so you can take a look. Been blogging about politics for over a decade, and I've had my policies out for about 5 years. So here's my Cancer of Capitalism post from my blog. I haven't really looked at him that deeply. I looked at like Obama, you know, intersectional Obama, right? He was under Obama. He dropped more bombs and murdered more people in more countries than even Bush did. So, yeah, Obama's super bad. Bush is of course bad. He's a Republican. He's fucking horrible. 9/11 and all that, like super mega ultra bad. But Obama is definitely horrible too. Like under Republicans, yeah, oh definitely. Well, I mean, it's always been a thing, right? I mean, you've got Al Qaeda, ISIS, Taliban. Those are all funded, created, armed, trained by the CIA, right? The United States has been involved in training terrorists for many, many years. Many years. So every single president and every single member of Congress since the very inception of this country all need to be tried at The Hague for crimes against humanity, and especially in the last 50 years, tried at The Hague for crimes against the natural world, at the very least, because every single, yeah, oh yeah, 100%. And this is why when they're saying the ICC put out a warrant for Putin, I'm like, okay, what else? I mean, if that's the only thing they're doing, then they're just acting as an arm for the United States. Because if they haven't put out warrants for every member of Congress and every U.S. president, then they don't actually have values. Because if they actually had values, that's what would be happening. They're just a propaganda arm. That's all they are. Which is sad, because we really need a large scale. Oh yeah. Well, people look into it. I mean, people talk about it, but no one who has any power is going to look at it very deeply, right? I mean, I'm talking about it. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people understand it, but no one with any power is going to do anything about it, because the moment they do, they'll be murdered. They'll be murdered. Or they'll be put in jail like Assange did, right? Assange was put in jail because he revealed U.S. war crimes. Because that's what's going to happen to anyone who decides to speak out against the United States. Yep, Guantanamo Bay is still awake, is still there. They haven't done anything about it. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just no one collectively has the power to stand against the United States and is willing to do so. Because we are the richest, most powerful country in the world. Maybe we'll see that with China and Russia, and them working with Africa and India, right? Because the world powers are shifting, and the United States is definitely going to be an empire in decline. And with all that shifting over there, yeah, the United States is pretty much fucked. Pretty much fucked. And we're just going to fight and murder and destroy everything to help maintain it. And by the time anything can be done about it, climate change and refugees are going to be a thing, and it won't matter because everyone's going to die in the next few hundred years. The horrors that are going to happen due to climate change, especially from the people in the global south, Africa, India, Central South America, is going to be horrific. That's already starting, right? There's lots of Australia. I'm going to send my ass. Yeah, I'll be dead before that. At least I heard they don't settle. Right, yep. I've already served, so they can't take me because I've already done my active duty. But my daughter, I have a daughter, she's 14. Like, my daughter and my nephews have children, niece and nephew. You can be cannon fodder, yeah. Oh yeah. That's all it's gonna really That's all that's really going to happen. And it's going to be bad because as people from Africa and India and Central and South America, they're going to be climate refugees going to the north. And actually, I was talking about this earlier in the stream. You're like the actual first person to pop in. So thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. That the refugees are going to start rioting and protesting and start going to the north. I was thinking like you can be walking down the road and get droned. Yeah. And can't do, yeah. Well, that's exactly right. And that's, you know, here in the United States, the amosexuals, people who, you know, have sex with their guns are like, all about the Second Amendment. What the fuck you can do with a drone? How are you going to stop a drone that's, you know, above the clouds and dropping, just even firing a round, a sniper round, a 50 cal sniper round from that height and murdering people? I mean, what the fuck are you gonna do with that? It's so stupid. It's one of those issues with guns in this country that when people get guns, what do I say? They say GDS. They get GDS, gun derangement syndrome, and you know they just lose their brains and they become a right winger, a sociopath in some way. So it's kind of a thank you for the follow. I'm glad that you're enjoying this. Appreciate that. So yeah, I think if we want the Pact of Swords, you'd actually need to kill someone. Yeah, that's true. I mean, one of the first things that technology advances is the technology to murder people. Become very, very efficient at doing that. And that is one of the fundamental problems. Well, it's not so much that we've become better at murdering people. It's that because we are very tribalistic, separated into countries, that we are competing, and we live in a world of artificial scarcity when there's no reason for scarcity to fundamentally exist, that we are competing and murdering each other when there's no need to do it. If we would cooperate and act as a globalized civilization, we wouldn't need any of this stuff. Militaries that America has a drone called the Reaper, yep, and it's huge blades, yep. Oh yeah, they've been using that for a long time, and it's really, really bad. I mean, it's a natural progression of murdering people, right? It's one of the most efficient ways of doing it. So yeah, it's just gonna get that way. We're gonna have robots that are doing it. I mean, Israel has their bot out, which is gonna start trusting AI to start murdering people. Yeah, it's bad. It's super mega ultra bad. It's only gonna get worse. I bet with the shift of climate refugees going north, I think the bots and AI are gonna be a much larger part of murdering the innocent refugees as we see going forward. Final Fantasy was like the same Sword Cloud. I only played the original version back in the day. On SNES, the Super Nintendo. Nintendo? It was on the original Nintendo. I haven't played any of the other ones, I don't think. Maybe I played the second one. I'm not sure, but I know I played the first one. Back with those amazing 8-bit graphics. Those were the days. Yeah. PS5? Okay, so you're just getting into it. Okay, cool. Yeah, good for you. Good for you for getting into it. I've got hand issues, so I can't play the cool stuff. It's been years. Yeah, I started with Atari 2600 with Pong and Pitfall and Pac-Man. Yeah, it does. It does. Like, I was playing MechWarrior Online and Star Wars The Old Republic, and it just fucking wrecked my hand. I had to stop doing it, and I had to wear these to help prevent the damage. And actually, I'm going to start getting a massage to help deal with the damage. Yeah, I play turn-based stuff. Like, I'm playing a bunch of stuff. Marvel's Midnight Suns, Warhammer 40k, Chaos Gates, Demon Hunters, Humankind, Baldur's Gate, Solasta. Those are the sorts of things that I'm playing. Currently, I'm playing Marvel's Midnight Suns. Right, I'm at the point where I'm at the very last mission. I'm trying to finish off a bunch of stuff before I finished it. I'm trying to get some of those achievements unlocked. Maple Story. I would be so mad. Oh yeah, I feel you, dog. I was like, it was like a midlife crisis because I was working full time at an amazing job and I was playing games. It was almost like I had to choose between, well, games and destroying my hand and losing my job or not. I mean, it was rough, but I quickly came to terms with it. You know, it has to be what it has to be, right? I got a family to take care of. So I had to quit anyhow because it was destroying my hands. So yeah, it had to be what it had to be. So I did it, and I've been wearing these for over a decade, and it helps. Got an Ergo keyboard and a vertical mouse left. Yeah, I can stream. It's been I've only been doing this for like three years or something like that. The way I can get out here and spread my brain to people who might want to listen. I actually started out doing gaming because I wasn't sure if this would work at all. I started out with BattleTech, their turn-based thing, which was really well done. I did that, and then in the meantime, I would talk politics to anyone who popped in. Then my wife said, "Well, just go talk, just do politics." So I did that, and that's what I've been doing since then. Great politics for 3 years. Ask this as an older person: how do you view all these girls doing hot tub? Well. So, I mean, these young girls have a significant advantage, I think, right? They're young, they're hot, they're doing suggestive things. I mean, hey, if you got it, you know, use it to an extent. Yeah, sure. But their body, if it gets the clicks, I mean, who's the problem here? People who are clicking or the people who are doing the stream? All right, so that's kind of the thing. So either way, you know, they do what they want. They get the clicks, and eventually, I didn't watch, who did I watch? There's one that I was looking at, and she's super beautiful, but I didn't stay because the content wasn't interesting so much. So for me, it's the content that matters. Laughing hella hard because I'm new to Twitch. Saw a girl named Double D Darcy. The title was wild. That's funny. If you got it, use it. But like here on Twitch, that isn't necessarily going to work for everyone. You'll still get, no, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's not going to work for everyone. It doesn't work for me. I don't mind something nice to look at, but I need some brains behind it as well. Otherwise, it's not really useful. Like find people on Facebook to follow, or people that try and follow me, and if they don't have anything, even if they're hot, if they don't have anything interesting on their stream, what's the point? No point in it. So delete. Not useful. Not useful at all. I think it's sad. It's like a bunch of virgins in this interaction with girls. Yeah. I mean, there's that. I mean, it's feeding off I think they're called parasocial relationships and making money off it and that sort of thing. Yeah, sure. There's definitely issues with that, but that's more of a statement, an indictment of how broken our society is. That, you know, we, as especially guys, have this toxic masculine environment where we are so starved for affection and connection to others, and women are too, but men more so because of what, you know, toxic masculinity. We're supposed to be manly, not have emotions and stuff like that, and be independent and not need connection, but we're still human and we still need connection, and that's something we need to fix as a society. Parasocial, all the titles were like, I need you. So, oh yeah. I mean, they've got the goods and they know how to market it. You know, more power to them. It's just we need to have that conversation about how broken our society is, and we need to fix that. Like when you talk politics, for me, a lot of people want to victim blame and blame everything on the individual, but we have to talk about things from the systems kind of thing. There's the systemic and structural violence inherent to capitalism, competition, and the exploitation that comes from it. I've got a blog post on that. I share this. I know everyone on my stream is fucking sick and tired of seeing it, but it's this one here. It's like a 10-minute read. The tension within methods of exchange, which oh motherfucker, here we go. That explains why things are messed up the way they are because of competition and methods of exchange, having to trade and that sort of a thing. It's this it's humanity's terminal disease, the disease of separation, and that's what capitalism is. It thrives off that separation, that division, that tribalism, and results in a sociopathic society which lives off exploiting people and exploiting the natural world for fun and corporate profit. And that's the core of what causes almost all global societal problems. It's the competition model. In my Cancer of Capitalism post above talks about kind of the solution, broadly speaking, through a resource-based economy. And my policies are kind of that middle step. They're talking about how we need to change our environmental policies, our military policies, our economic policies to help mitigate the harms caused by the structural harms caused by capitalism and competition, like UBI and universal housing, housing as a human right, internet as a human right, energy, and family planning and stuff like that as a human right. And we need to drastically change the way we design our cities to be more community focused, because everything currently is designed around everyone having a car. We need mass transportation as a core part of every city, and sharing centers so that we don't have to have everything, because I've got tools here that I use maybe twice a year. Why should I have tools when I don't use them, when I can, go to a sharing center, get the tools that I need when I'm ready, and then bring them back? I mean, the complete waste for our society and the toxic individualism that we have to own everything, own one of everything. There's no reason for that at all. And that's part of the destruction that capitalism has, is that it's inefficient. It's an inefficient use of resources. And of course, you've got the planned obsolescence part of that too, that buy something it's meant to break, because if it doesn't break, then the company loses its revenue stream, which is not good for business. So either they have to make really expensive stuff, or they have to make shitty stuff, and they have to do both in order to make sure that they stay in business. And actually, I talk about what will happen if you in here, like if we actually had a society that was actually environmentally conscious. Curly Bear, how you doing? Welcome. Playing? I don't know my earphones on. Curly Bear, yay! How you doing today? Good to see ya. We're talking we're talking capitalism a little bit, and we popped on. We're talking about the military and Desert Storm and U.S. imperialism, and we're talking capitalism and lots of stuff like that. We've covered some AI stuff and some future tech stuff, and we're on environmental stuff right now. This is what I was reading. How have you been? I have a friend who's leaving my work, which is sad. Doomer News, my favorite. Hallelujah, I aim to entertain. Yeah, I've got a friend who's leaving my work, which is sad. I had a weekly meeting with her at least, and she's leaving, which is sad. But she's going on to a new amazing job. I'm kind of dealing with that. I've got my appointment with the ADHD therapist on Friday. My mother's going to be there, and we're talking about my childhood. Fortunately, that went okay, mostly because we were chatting through text about it. What was the third thing? I don't know. That's the two main things that are happening with me. So I was playing Marvel Midnight Suns, and I'm at the very last mission, and I'm trying to get a bunch of the achievements unlocked for the game before I finish it. Yeah, that's all that's happening with me. Dang. My wife and daughter are gone. My wife is in Madison with a friend, with her cousin, and my daughter's at a friend's house. So I have plenty of time. You know, we got plenty of Doomer stuff to go over. Yeah, it is, and it's. This is the first place I've been where I'm actually really friends with the people I work with. My previous position, where I was 19 years, I mean, they're good people. I enjoyed them, but I never ever. I in 19 years never went out with them somewhere. Spent time with them at work, which was fine. Part of it's I'm an introvert too, and I don't really people. But this is the. Yeah, no deadline. But this position, the people I'm working with, they're it's the first place I've been where people really understand me, because we're all accessibility people. And they're, we all have the rage from accessibility as a discipline, and we all have the compassion for being accessibility people. So it's been really nice. And it's really sad when we lose some of these people, especially when it's due to institutional issues. Well, hopefully we'll be working towards fixing some of those eventually, because it be done. Need to increase the institutional support for accessibility and that sort of a thing. So, yeah. But her and I are going to make a plan to meet once a month at least to catch up. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be good. I want to keep in contact with her. She's not that far away. Like, 6 hours away, I think the Google Maps said. So I go up there and visit her and her boyfriend. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, that is nice. We'll see what happens. I expect that she's gonna have a great time with her new job, and then keep in contact, and then at some point I'll probably take the family up there for a vacation, so I can meet her and the boyfriend and her family and stuff like that. But we'll see. Maybe that'll be a summer thing that we'll have to do. I don't know. Time will tell. Yeah, and I've met with her. She's a manager of a small team of 2 other people. So I've met with them, and I've met also with their interim manager too. He's nice. People are nice. I'm kind of so she's the manager of a small group that I work with. They do accessibility evaluation for a specific department. So I work with them on things, or keep in contact with them at least. So I'm there as a resource for the new manager, for amazing evaluators if they need help, support in something that they're doing, because there may not be the institutional understanding of what accessibility is or what it means, broadly speaking, because they don't do accessibility. Like, their small team within where they are is the only major part of accessibility that's kind of in there. There's other little people here and there that do it or are interested on this like full-time level. So yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. It starts on Fridays. Friday's her last day. Friday's when I have my appointment too with the therapist to talk about ADHD. So Friday's gonna be bittersweet, but it'll be okay. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. What did we leave on? Yeah, I've torn through a lot of stuff already. I don't know. Like, when I told her over a month ago about ADHD, that my daughter and I were diagnosed, she kind of lost her brain and was really pissed about the whole thing. Which, to an extent, I understand, right? We talk about the issues with the medical community and the pharmaceutical industry, and and all the issues that come with that, like potentially over-diagnosis and over-medicating and all the issues with that. And she's just a child, right? She's 14, which I get. I understand her concerns. Believe me, I I talk about this stuff. And yeah, so that, and then after we had that conversation, when we were over there, she left and she didn't come back for another hour or two until when my wife came. So it was super rough. Super rough. Not happy about it. But, and actually I hadn't told her when the appointment was, or how it was going to go, because, and I've known about it for over a month because of the anxiety I have over telling her. But fortunately, she texted, we have a text group with my mother and my wife, 3 of us together, but she asked about it because she hadn't heard anything, and then we arranged it and it went just fine. So I'm hoping, but that was through text, so we don't have emotions going on there. So I'm hoping that the ride up there will go well. I think it will. I expect it will. I don't think she does overall, but that's something that the therapist is going to have a conversation about, I expect. Kind of explain it to her, because I told the therapist, you know, that this is not going to go well with my mom. I knew it wouldn't, and it most definitely didn't. So I expect the therapist, when we go there, is going to go through the process of explaining it too. I'm hoping that the therapist can really help mitigate the anger, negativity surrounding this with my mother, because it would be nice. It would be nice. Make my life a hell of a lot easier. Because otherwise, you know, if I need to tell her something about this or want to talk about it, I won't be able to. Much like I can't talk about politics, right? I have to be very careful about what I talk about, because I can't talk about politics, can't talk about ADHD. Yeah, no, I'm sure that's part of it. And I was talking with my dad about this. I think I already told her that too, but she was super emotional, so I wasn't listening. But my dad said, you know, we tried, you know, I tried to give you a great, you know, good environment, you know, good childhood. It's like, Dad, this has nothing to do with your environment. This is not about you. It has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with Mom directly. This is just about, because it's not an environmental thing. It's not epigenetic per se. It's not something you get from poverty or something like that. This is just it's genetic. It passed down because my daughter got it from me, but it's not environmental. So it's nothing about them, and getting them to understand this is not about you. Not about you. It says doesn't have basically jack shit to do with you. About us and our lived experience. So, yeah, getting them to the point where they understand it's not them, they don't feel blamed or like they fucked up or something like that is going to be important. But I don't know if it's going to be possible. I mean, I'm not going to be able to do it because I won't be able to talk about it. Unless by some miracle my mother is able to get over that and get her to the point where she understands, which is, I think is going to be very difficult. So, I don't know. We'll see. This next week is going to be interesting. I'll do that on Friday. Then my besties at work is going away on Friday too. So come Saturday we'll have awesome stuff to talk about. Yeah. Hoping everything goes well. I could definitely use some good news on that front. I'm already at a to an extent estranged from my mother because of politics. I can't really talk about that. She loses her mind, and now I've got the ADHD thing, so that's another thing I can't talk about. It just becomes, you know, one more aspect of my life that she's not going to hear about. I'm in the process of writing a blog post on this, like the whole ADHD experience and how I got to that and how it impacts me, especially looking back over my life and understanding ADHD as I go. So I'll at some point I'll get that done and get that out. The biggest problem I'm having right now is just having the time to go through and actually explain what ADHD is. So I got to get that figured out and then do some more work on putting down the impacts that it had on my life, which is pretty interesting. Like my whole life is about coping with the impacts of ADHD on my brain and things like that. So it's been pretty interesting looking back at my life. So yeah, that's what's happening. Oh, okay. How early was he diagnosed? Was it from childhood or much later? It's like I'm 49. I'm gonna take my sweater off. They don't traumatize anyone. I've got accessibility is political. Childhood. Oh, okay, cool. How was he? Was he well adapted to it, or was it like super challenging to deal with? I don't have medication yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard from a few friends who have ADHD that it's life-changing getting medication. And did he take medication for it too? Challenging? Okay. Yeah, I bet. And was he more on the hyperactive scale, or on the there's a hyperactivity inattentive kind of scale? My daughter's on the hyperactive scale, more on that side. I'm more on the inattentive scale. Or impacts. Now when you're okay. Oh, okay. Well, good to hear. I think good to hear. Was it that when we were together? Is that about medication? Saying a lot here. Yeah, I'm struggling with that at work. Like, no meds? Okay. Yeah, that's gonna make it difficult. I'm looking forward to it, but we'll see how it works. I get distracted at work quite a bit, and it's difficult. I don't get as much done during the week as I would like, and there are certain things that I would like to do that it's hard to do. It's hard to get my brain to do it. Part of the ADHD thing, but I've been there's one thing they're called accessibility exceptions. They're just difficult to do, difficult to get my brain to do, and it takes forever to get them done, even though days for me to get them done, even though it would probably take half a day to do. I spend most of my week working on them, get them done. It's just a lot of time is dealt with the kind of anxiety and the distraction and stuff like that, and it's not pleasant. Yeah, I know. Specifically with the Adderall and the Ritalin, I think. But I'm hoping to get on. Those are short-term meds, and but they have also long-term meds which work for the whole day. That's kind of what I'm hoping to get on, at least during the weekday when I'm working. They'll be working and I can focus. Hopefully. I may have to rely on that instead of the shorter term. Yeah, those take the longer term meds take longer to start. You hear from other streamers? Oh, you hear about the med shortage? Yeah, I've heard about it from just doing some research on ADHD. I'm watching a lot of videos and stuff. But yeah, the longer term ADHD meds, it's like Covance, or there's I don't know, there's a few out there. They take longer to get started, but they last longer. Adderall shortage, yeah. Those things act very quickly. Adderall and Ritalin, but I don't think they last as long. So yeah, I guess we'll see how it works. I'm hoping after this next appointment on Friday that I'll have that conversation about meds. Then I'll have to talk to her about that specific thing. Well, I'll be going to the VA, so maybe we'll have better access to it, maybe. Hopefully. Possibly. If not, maybe I'll have to look at not getting on Ritalin or Adderall. But it's for no reason. Oh, that's right! What? Go ahead and put it in there. I remember reading something about this, but I don't remember what I read on that. They just decided not to produce. That's fucking stupid. That's really stupid. Do you have an article on that? I'm curious to read that. Right, yeah, and I wonder if it's based on maybe cost controls. If it's more regulated, they're making less profit off it. Might be, because profit is usually the primary driver for fucking people over. Okay, yeah, sure, that'd be great. That'd be great. Well, why don't I look up? I will look it up myself. You're not my slave. Hydroshortage. Suffering is the icing on top. Yeah, that's yeah, 100%. Too many links open. Fuck off. Let's see. As the nationwide Adderall shortage enters its 5th month, I'll go and throw this in. That. Who rely on medication to help manage attention deficit hyperactivity disorder are finding few, if any, available alternatives. There's no sign of relief yet and no easy solution to the problem. We'll say words, but no legit reason. Yeah, of course. Because if they actually said just because profit, then there would be some really pissed off people. There's no sign of relief yet and no easy solution to the problem. Pharmacy experts say widespread scarcity has hit Adderall alternatives too. As of January, the American Society of Health System Pharmacists, which tracks drugs availability, reported shortages affecting nearly 40 different doses or formulations of generic Concerta. That's the one I've heard of, Concerta. A long-acting form of methylphenidate, the drug in Ritalin, Takeda Pharmaceuticals, which makes Binase, I've heard of that one too, also known as lisdexamfetamine, it's generic, says there's no shortage of that drug, but according to dozens of pharmacies reached by NBC News, Binase has been on intermittent back order for months. So, I should go for Concerta, it looks like, when I have that conversation. Michael Ganio, Senior Director of Pharmacy Practice and Quality at ASHP, said an unexpected rise in demand was more to blame than manufacturing equipment or drug quality. That's suspect, okay. All of our drug shortage infrastructure and everything we have in place in this country to mitigate the impact of shortages is based on potential disruptions in supply, Ganio said. It's been very unusual to have a shortage based on increase in demand. In recent years, ADHD medication prescriptions have risen more than the drug companies and government agencies predicted. According to the health data company Trilliant Health, Adderall prescriptions for adults rose 15% during 2020. Double the 7.4% rise for. In October, the FDA announced national shortage of Adderall, citing ongoing intermittent manufacturing delays. You're not feeling anything, not feeling any demand. That sucks. Because not having it, this stuff can be devastating for people who are severely impacted by it. Not cool, man. Dr. Sarah Chayette began switching patients to alternative ADHD medications like Focalin, Binase, Concerta, and Ritalin when she learned pharmacies were out of Adderall late last year. Alternative drugs didn't always work out, but for many patients, switching prescriptions made more sense than going without ADHD medication altogether. Yep. There's a spillover from people who couldn't get Adderall and have turned to other drugs, said Shayette, pediatric neurologist who treats both children and adults who have ADHD at the Palo Alto Medical Foundation, and it's just getting worse. Some drug companies now say the supply problem could last well into the spring. Alvogen, which manufactures generic Adderall, expects its shortage to last until mid-April, according to the FDA's database. Teva Pharmaceuticals, the country's largest Adderall supplier, reports that issues with some of its Adderall dosages, particularly the more expensive branding version of its fast-acting tablets, are now resolved, but lists recovery dates for others to be determined. Phone is being... Voting stuff. Most ADHD medications fall into a class of controlled substances called central nervous system stimulants. Because the medications have a well-documented history of abuse and addiction, the FDA and Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, limit how many pills a pharmacy can dispense at once and how frequently patients can refill their prescriptions. The DEA also sets limits on the active ingredients pharmaceutical companies can use to make these drugs each year. That's... DEA also sets limits on the active ingredients pharmaceutical companies use to make these drugs each. Not sure if I like that. This is the Drug Enforcement Agency. I don't think they should have a say in that. Like, DEA and Tobacco Firearms, something like that. Yeah, this is a bit strange. DEA is involved. This just should be just the FDA that should be involved in this. I'm not sure why the DEA has any say. The DEA is involved if any manufacturers try to scale up production. Ganio said the DEA calculates how much of a given drug ingredient is needed to meet demand, then allocates the precise amount. Problem, according to Ganio, is how DEA uses historical data, meaning prescription numbers from previous years to set these amounts. Demand forecasts based on historical data couldn't predict a sharp rise in ADHD diagnosis during the pandemic, Ganio said. Now there's a mismatch between DEA quotas and prescription numbers. Yeah, that is strange. I get that they're doing it because it's a stimulant that is prone to abuse, so I kind of get that. But still. Quotas have been troublesome for companies like Novartis-owned Sandoz, which makes generic Adderall and Concerta. Since mid-2022, we found when a customer ordered more from us than what they forecasted, we were unable to fill those orders. Leslie Pott, a Sandoz spokesperson, told NBC News email to petition the DEA for an increase in volume, with some requests accepted and some denied, according to Pott. These customers range from hospitals and institutions to pharmacies, specialty pharmacies, and wholesalers. So, okay, let's go back up here. So it's pretty much the DEA is deciding yes and no as to what the supply is going to be. So this is all about the DEA telling the people to fuck off. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. They're the ones who control the controlled substances active in. They dole it out to the various companies. County said the DEA is often willing to increase quotas if there is legitimate patient demand. It's difficult to measure a demand increase while it's happening. There's no real-time coordination system tracking ADHD diagnoses on a national level like there is for COVID or the flu. When letting pharmacies dispense set limit, what if neighbor? Right, exactly. It's based on forecasting for the area or some shit like that. Yeah, if anyone moves in or newly diagnosed, it fucks up everything. Yeah, Yep. Exactly. It's yeah, this is not a good way to do it, obviously, because there's people having issues with it. But tracking of this stuff should be something that's done. Like, we're not tracking COVID. All right, making more drugs is not as easy as just flipping a switch, Ganio said. The FDA and DEA are seeing more demand, but how much more? COVID, social media, and telehealth drive demand. Doctors can't cite exact numbers either, but many say they've noticed a clear increase in patients seeking ADHD treatment since pandemic lockdowns began. I wonder if it has something to do with people working online that have been in office. Things become maybe a little more apparent that people are struggling, or that they are struggling, or maybe it's easier to see in these video meetings, something like that. I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe it's people staying home and actually having to deal with each other. Like, what's wrong with you? And then they're like, oh, maybe you've got ADHD, and then you get go get diagnosed or something like that. Not sure. Like many crises, a lot of factors all came together to create a perfect storm. Said Shayat, who herself saw many more patients for ADHD recently than in pre-pandemic years. This is unbelievably unprecedented. It's messed up. Opioids were rampant, but now they are able to squash it. Oh, yeah. And opioids are a controlled substance too, right? They are. Yeah, this is strange. Can't find something that talks about it directly. And that product for Adderall for patients, not excess for. Yeah, I think it would be harder to abuse this. A few years later, the DEA raided Yoko's pharmacy and accused the facility of contributing to the opioid epidemic rather than curbing it. So here was something significantly more addictive. They're like, you know, whatevs, you guys are the problem. Yeah, that's pretty that is kind of messed up. Opioids are less controlled than Adderall. Yeah, it's all about the money, right? Because the Sachs family, right? They made billions and billions off it, and I'm sure their congressman that they own made a lot of money off it too, right? It's all about the monies. As people begin working from home or helping children with virtual school, they started to recognize ADHD symptoms. Yep, that's kind of what I was talking about. Said Max Wisnitzer, a pediatric neurologist at University Hospital Rainbow's Babies and Children's Hospital and Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland. This was especially true for adult women. Oh, that's interesting. Isn't that why they are saying they need to squash production opiates? Yeah. And I don't know if they're squashing production on it currently. I haven't read anything about that, but I would hope that there's a higher control over it because it's super addictive. And there's a lot of doctors who were prescribing it because they were getting kickbacks from it, because they were being paid to prescribe opioids and get people addicted on it. Of course, the Sackler family made billions, and the company that made them, their company, I think, had to declare bankruptcy or something like that. Although the Sackler family, I think they were under investigation, but we read an article on that actually, I think last year. But I expect they're just going to get out scot-free because they say, "Oh, we didn't know." It's our managers. I don't like Adderall is that addictive. Yeah, I don't think it is either, but I don't really know. Well, let's just okay. Let's read this and then we'll. Here, let's check this out. How? They got off easy? Okay, good. I'm glad you remember. I could swear we did. Okay, let's see. No. Oh, okay, hold on. Well, that's right. The active ingredient in this is meth. Similar to meth. Adderall is an addictive prescription stimulant with the effects similar to meth. Because of its potency and accessibility, the risk of Adderall addiction and abuse is high. Okay. But not everyone who uses Adderall will develop addiction. People regularly taking Adderall at unprescribed doses are at an elevated risk of becoming addicted. Okay, alright. Well, that's... Alright, I can kind of see it now, but still. Right, but not for... If they're using it properly, everything's going to be potentially quite fine. Over time, those habitually using Adderall develop a tolerance to the drug and are unable to function normally without it. Because it calms them down. Yep. That's true. Okay, yeah, that's true. Allows us to focus. Adderall works by increasing dopamine and norepinephrine levels in the central nervous system. Norepinephrine affects how the brain responds to events, particularly how it pays attention and the speed with which it reacts to outside stimuli. Dopamine, the body's feel-good chemical, creates a rewarding effect. Although dopamine occurs naturally, drugs like Adderall produce unnaturally high levels of it. This can cause users to come back for more. Okay. Okay. So it's kind of, yeah, addicted to the dopamine increase. And that's one of the primary drivers for ADHD is lack the receptors. We have reduced receptors for dopamine, so we don't, things that we should normally find rewarding aren't rewarding, so it can be difficult to find that with detention. Well, oh yeah, I'll share this with you. Sorry. There you go. This is Addiction Center. I don't know. Good question. Okay, let's find another one. Southern California. Okay, coverage just both. WebMD? No, that's not the most trustworthy either. Stimulant like caffeine. Get high or feel alert or energetic. Are no more dangerous than drinking a lot of coffee or caffeinated beverages. That's what they're saying. I'll go ahead and share them. Abusing or misusing a drug harms you, your loved ones. You are misusing Adderall if you take someone else's prescription, use a higher dose than prescribed, inject, snort, or smoke the pills. My God, mix the pills with other drugs or alcohol, use them to get high or to keep up with school studies. Some older Americans may take Adderall to ward off memory loss, but doing so without a doctor's okay can lead to physical or mental problems. Okay, Schedule 2 drug, same as cocaine. That means the potential for abuse is high. Adderall activates your brain's reward center by boosting the chemicals norepinephrine and dopamine. Okay, euphoric, blah, blah, blah. They say so. Let's see what else we have. Need to find a university in here. Okay. Well, let's for Johns Hopkins. Save anything. So, if students are abusing it, that's honestly kind of an indictment of the system, that children are feeling so stressed and so much like they have to make the grade that they're moving to drugs, using drugs to increase their performance. There's so many things we can, point to that is the system being broken. That would be definitely one of them. So Johns Hopkins, prescriptions for the stimulant unchanged, but study finds more non-medical use and emergency room visits among adults. Share this. Did I share it? Share it. Anecdotal evidence had suggested the most severe problem of Adderall misuse among older children and adolescents. Okay, it makes sense. High school, in college. But the new research published February 16th in the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry finds otherwise. The study examined trends from 2006 to 11, which is kind of old. Found that it's mainly 18 to 25-year-olds who are inappropriately taking Adderall without prescription, which would be college and high school. High school and college. Primarily getting medication from family and friends without a physician recommendation. Yep, that makes sense. But this, how old is this? This is 2016. Okay, so this is pretty old. Okay, but still, it's college level people who are doing it. And again, that says more about our college and the level of competition and expectations we're putting on them. Or phenomenally. Students, health professionals, parents. I really do not like this. Hold on. Fucking Times New Roman. What the serif font is. Okay, that's better. We'll turn off the font. This is better. Academic, maybe there's some Adderall here, there, but not ongoing. Yeah, most likely the abuse will be happening during college, and then they should get off it after that. But unless they end up being addicted to it because of the, right? But the real way to fix this is to fix our universities and how they work, and that will fix everything. And that would be the real fix for this, instead of controlling. You still have to control the substance, I guess, but fix the system, not the symptoms. View the translation of research findings as an important responsibility that can help dispel the myths often perpetuated in the media. The non-medical use of prescription stimulants is complex behavior and should be viewed in the larger context of alcohol and drug involvement among young adults. Strategies to reduce non-medical use of prescription stimulants might have direct application to the abuse of other prescription drugs, including opiates. Okay, so yeah, this is pretty much it. Again, when we talk about politics and the problems we have, it boils down to drug abuse is a symptom of larger order systemic problems going on. And if we tackle poverty and inequality and homelessness, that gets rid of almost all of the crime and drug abuse. Just like getting rid of the highly competitive stress and requirements of higher education would help get rid of all of this too. So it's So looking at this abuse, potential drug abuse, is as a system and as a symptom and not the actual problem is the only way to actually approach not largely what is being done. Like this article here. Let's see. I can't imagine we'll see someone talking about that, making the connection between high demands of like high school, especially private schools and college, and the direct correlation between that and the abuse of Adderall. Yeah, so at the national level, non-medical use of prescription drugs is becoming an increasingly important part of the illicit drug use problem among college students. Right, so this is the primary demographic. Landlord here, gotta go. Okay. Have good luck. Thinking about you. Have a great weekend. Recent news. Publications have identified the non-medical use of prescription stimulants as a clinical concern for physicians and family health practitioners. The paper focuses on the well-documented problem of non-medical use of prescription stimulants, including Adderall, Ritalin, and Concerta. Campuses, non-medical use, stimulants. All right, so yeah, I guess that's what I'll say on this. We have to look at our education systems and look at the drive for why they're looking for abusing these drugs. You solve that, and then you solve the whole problem of abuse to begin with. And that's how we need to be approaching all problems. Looking at the systems, looking at the problems as symptoms of much larger order macro systemic issues. Okay, we were over here. We've got about 5 minutes left, so let's continue on finishing this, and then we should be good for the day. All right, the legally binding Paris Agreement. It's not... Well, it might be binding, but it's not enforceable. It has zero teeth to it. It's just saying, hey, we agree to do this, and then none of them are doing it. So fucking useless. And then policies say, yeah, we're sure we should sign it as, you know, just a symbol of something, but it doesn't matter at all. It has no enforcement mechanism. Aims to not exceed this threshold by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and so far we're already sitting at 1.1 warming. The Paris Agreement maintains that in the worst case scenario, the nations of the world ought to keep warming well below 2 degrees Celsius, but the AI found we have a substantial probability of crossing even that threshold, at which scientists believe the effects of climate change will be reversible and far more catastrophic by 2050. And again, like I was saying before, scientists and all their modeling, their predictions they're just incorrect. That things are happening much sooner than scientists can predict. That's fundamentally problematic, because we are, which means even based off their predictions, even if they are conservative, they're not conservative enough, and we are much more fucked than their climate modeling can predict correctly. So irreversible climate change by 2050, yeah, we're probably looking at 2030. That. To reduce these portentous predictions, the scientists trained a machine learning system on climate model outputs. Oh, okay. During its training and testing, it was able to independently and accurately predict the timing of global warming temperatures in the past while only using maps of historical annual temperatures. Okay, that's cool. According to the scientists, even in the best case scenario, the scientists found the 1.5 degree threshold would be reached between 2035. Fuck, okay, which isn't a lot of time. Okay, so this is a little bit different. I mean, it is. I mean, they're training directly on at least the historical data. Okay, as CNN notes, this projected timeline is largely in line with the predictions of other significant reports, but the A study has a far grimmer idea of when the 2-degree threshold will be reached. Holy fuck. Estimating close to 80% chance that the world will hit that mark by 2065, and that's assuming we maintain net zero carbon emissions. Oh my god. So yeah, when we're looking at the feedback loops, this is what I'm talking about, right? It's happening much faster than we can probably really accurately predict. I mean, if this is bordering on accurate based on the contemporary information, it's oh my god, this is even worse than I was thinking. We're gonna jump what, 1.8 degrees in 30 years. We'll be, my god, yeah, it's super bad. The extinction is coming faster if this is the case. If we do hit, what do they say, 2 degrees by 2065. Yeah, that's really bad. Because it's going like this. So by 2100, we're mass devastation. Co-author of a study and climate scientist at Stanford University told CNN there's a 50% chance that 2 degrees will be reached even sooner by 2050 if emissions stay high. Oh my god! There is clear evidence that a half degree of global warming possesses substantial risk for people and ecosystems, he added. Hence, the greater the global warming, the greater challenges at depth. Yeah, that's really bad. That really accelerates how fucked we're gonna be. So let's say we don't hit it till 2080, but 2 degrees by 2080. I mean, some of the climate models have already said, like I've been saying, by 2100, like, no, I've seen 2 to 2.7 or 2.4 to 2.7 by 2100. So I guess that's fairly well on mark with what they're saying, actually. Oh, but that means it's going to be actually faster than that. We'd have to plot this out and see where exactly that falls, because we're at 30 years. We're jumping a whole. What is it? I don't know what the math is, but it's a huge jump. Yeah, that's not good. All right. Well, it's 5 o'clock at my time, and it's time for me to get going. I leave the end part for people to say any random things that they want to say before we call it a day. But again, I stream on Saturdays, currently just 1 day a week at, 2 o'clock, 2 to 5 U.S. Central Standard Time. For 3 hours, we talk technology and climate change and capitalism and all sorts of yummy, really doomer stuff. So, last minute comments before we call it a day. Bueller. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you for your follows, everyone, as well. If you want to follow me on places and Twitch, down below, you've got my follow me everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, my blog, my policies, Discord, it's all in there. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.